I wore this blazer today because I wanted to tell you something. I wanted you to see that I'm a smart, capable, professional young adult who wants to say something important. What you cannot tell from my blazer is that today is my birthday. And instead of going anywhere else, instead of going to Disney or going to the beach, I'm giving a TEDx talk, which tells you something about me. And I wore this blazer to project a sense of professionalism, because what I know is that every single one of you made a judgment about me from the second I walked onto this stage. Don't believe me? According to Psychology Today, it takes just 7 seconds to make a first impression. Another study by Princeton researchers found that this time can be even less, 1/10 of a second. The blink of an eye, the time it takes a hummingbird to beat its wings 7 times. And first impressions can become assumptions, or if you've ever thought about being Sherlock Holmes, a deduction. But there are plenty of ways a first impression and assumptions can be wrong. It's a slippery slope. For example, you can assume that somebody has siblings, even if they don't. It's an assumption you can make about me. If you were to see me with my friends, you would see me asking them if they have sunscreen on, if they have all the things, if they need any food or water. It's not true, of course. I don't have any siblings. I'm an only child, unless you count animal siblings. But you can assume different things about different people based off the glimpse that you may see of them. You can assume that your teachers are married, even if they aren't. You can assume that somebody isn't intelligent based off of how they're dressed. And that is when a first impression can become a stereotype. Stereotypes are harmful assumptions you make based off of a single characteristic somebody can possess. And a stereotype can become what you think, what you feel, and they take little to no time to think about. They don't take 1/10 of a second. They just take a split glimpse of somebody to see that characteristic. But before I go on to explain about stereotypes, I want to explain how I got here. When the idea of TED Talks came up, my friends and I played a little game, guessing about what my idea would be. I said that I had some, and my friends were bored and they didn't know what they wanted to do. So we played the game. Isms, my friend said. Isms? I parroted back, not sure what that was, because I had never heard the word before. But she continued, isms. You know how you're always talking about racism, sexism, classism, the isms. And what my friends know about me, some context, is that I believe in speaking truth to power, and that when you see something, you should say something. So when I see something that could be sexism, I say it. If I see something that I think is classism, I say it. It's a part of who I am, a fundamental belief of mine. So my friends, knowing that I would get a public platform to speak on, were like, the isms is your jam. But it took me some thinking. My topic was going to be about stereotypes. How would the isms be related to that? Well, after some deep thinking, I decided that the isms would be a fantastic title, and that if I'm going to talk about stereotypes, I need to talk about the isms. After all, isms are what fuel stereotypes. Without stereotypes, without isms, neither of the other could exist. For example, there would be no Asians are bad drivers without racism. There would be no poor people are lazy without classism. There would be no angry black woman stereotype without racism and sexism. And these stereotypes are based off of the characteristic that you have. And it's derogatory, and it's not fact, it's not truth. And these stereotypes assume something negative about somebody. And they are quite prevalent in our world. As a STEM-based high school, propelling students into greatness, we need to know things about stereotypes, about first impressions, about the way that the world is going to perceive us. Take movies, for example. My first cognitive thought about stereotypes. was when I first watched the movie Legally Blonde. Bold, sparkly, and pink Elle Woods defied the odds and became a lawyer. It was incredible, according to the movie, and I didn't quite understand why. After all, to me, Elle Woods was just as likely to be a lawyer as Jack McCoy from Law & Order. It wasn't until my mother explained that Reese Witherspoon, the actress who took the role of Elle Woods, took it because she was only offered the roles of a cutesy, dumb blonde. And Elle Woods lived to defy this assumption, this stereotype. And that was when I started thinking about the world and stereotypes and where they might be. Another example of stereotypes in the world that I've encountered, specifically in just movies. A couple months ago, I was looking for a movie to watch. I felt like watching some singing, talking cats, so I watched The Aristocats. But something interesting happened when I pressed play. A parental advisory came onto the screen, saying that this movie depicted negative stereotypes and that parents would want to be careful about what they let their children see if they didn't want them to see the stereotype. I was astonished. I didn't see any stereotypes in it when I was little, but then again, I didn't know about it. I didn't know about stereotypes. So I Googled it. Apparently, a movie about singing cats had a racist Asian stereotype in it. And it made me think about all the things that I had seen when I was younger, before I knew what a stereotype was. It made me think about how that had changed my thinking of the world and how it related to who I am today. Stereotypes, described by the Berkeley Wellbeing Institute, is a quick judgment based off of a single characteristic a person may possess. It's just a judgment. It's just thoughts. But it's easily tied to ideas of prejudice and discrimination, which is just saying that stereotypes are fueled by the isms. Now, the brain is a computer, and it puts people into different boxes, lists, different shortcuts to describe a person. It chooses a characteristic. When it creates those lists, it can create a stereotype. And stereotypes are just thoughts, but when it infects your thinking, it becomes what you believe. And this means that when we go into the world, we need to be aware of these things. In society, we need to know that stereotype threat exists, which is described by Rutgers University as being the belief that one can confirm a negative stereotype about one's group. It means that when you think you're more likely to become a stereotype, to exhibit a stereotypical character, you're more likely to do so. It's been seen in studies when women who were aware that they were being observed about their math skills underperformed because they believed that they could confirm the stereotype that women weren't good at math. But this doesn't have to have any truth to it at all. And we need to understand that to protect ourselves against stereotype threats. As a society, we also need to understand that the way that the world works does not have to be how it is today. I wore this skirt specifically because I want to represent that. It's bold and sparkly, just like Elle Woods, and it represents how I believe that we're going to change the world. A year ago, one of my teachers and her students had a discussion, and it got pretty heated. The teacher described how when she came to NeoCity for an interview, she took out her nose ring. She said that the same reason for why I wore this blazer was why she took it out, to project a sense of professionalism. The students disagreed, however. They believed that she should have kept it in. It's a fashion statement, plain and simple. It had nothing to do with her capabilities as a teacher. And while it may seem dramatic to say that it would be to deny who she is to take out her nose ring, it made sense to me. After all, I believe that this was an intergenerational dispute between the older generations and the younger generation. and both made sense to me. I've grown up believing that you have to respect the environment that you're in, that you have to respect other people's time, which is why I wore this blazer, because this is a professional setting and it's a TEDx event. But my generation believes in individualism and non-conformity, and that a characteristic that you possess has nothing to do with your capabilities, unless you're not good at math and you're trying to become a math teacher. That may be an issue. But this means that when you have a characteristic that may lead something to be derogatory about you, you have to combat it by being yourself. Because no matter what anybody thinks about you, it doesn't have to be true. Now, as a society, if there's anything that you take away from this, I want you to remember to have empathy and compassion, to remember that everyone is an individual and no one is a monolith, that no one person represents their entire group, and that a characteristic that a person may have doesn't describe their entire personality, their entire being. And next time that you meet somebody, I want you to pay careful attention to the snap judgments that you make. Because unless you're a time traveler, you never know who somebody is before they even have a chance to speak. Thank you.